I recently took a trip all the way down to Legoland in New York where I was able to find all of the new Ninjago 2026 sets early. Well, almost all of them, and obviously I had to buy all of them, so let's build them and review them, starting with quite possibly my most anticipated set, the 15th anniversary display stand. So obviously, like the name would suggest, this is a 15th anniversary set, which also means that it is a legacy set. And right off the bat, when you build this set, you can see that this one is different from what you would normally see, because when you open up the instructions, you are met with an experience much more similar to some of the 18 plus sets, with some background on the monastery, and of course some of the references in the set. But yes, this is in fact a very nice display piece. The front gate of the monastery looks great. I love all of the small little details they managed to pack in, with the mountain detailing, the cherry blossom, this statue, and obviously on the backside there is a small area with some tea and these two stickers which actually represent Wu's fight with Garmadon, which obviously ultimately resulted in Garmadon's fall to the underworld. But even though this build is great, this set is obviously all about the minifigures, with new versions of all of the ZX Ninja, Sensei Wu, and Samurai X. They all use this new updated hood mold for the ZX hood piece, which I think does look pretty great, although I do not love how it kind of covers the eyebrows of the minifigures. We also get all of the golden weapons with a new design for the nunchucks of lightning, as well as the side of quakes, and obviously these minifigures are mostly faithful to the originals. Kai, I think, is pretty much perfect. Zane is probably my favorite one just because it is so accurate, but he also has this new alternate damaged face like he had in Season 1. Cole's printing is very good, but obviously he does not have the silver anymore, which is kind of unfortunate. Lloyd is in a similar boat, but his printing has been changed a lot more to match the gold, and is still clearly faithful to the original, but out of all of the ninja, his is definitely the one that has changed the most. And then we have Jay, which honestly, Jay actually has really great printing, but the gold here on the hood and armor, it just does not work. I do think that it definitely does look a little bit better in person, and having the weapon to go with it definitely does help, but just out of every ninja, Jay is the one that really needed to have that silver, and it's just not here. Samurai X is one that I think is mostly good, but I do wish they would have included her full armor instead of this pauldron, and then of course Sensei Wu is great. But this set is called the character display stand for a reason, and that is because not only do you get a spot to attach all of the ninja, but you also get the 15th anniversary original elemental master of lightning, who looks great, and I really like that I included this little lightning bolt for her as well. But there is one issue with this set, and it's that they clearly messed up here with the instructions. They have you build this set so the Technic pins stick out of the left side, but in reality they need to stick out from the right side so that you can actually properly connect the 15th anniversary minifigure stands to extend the display. Honestly, I'm not even sure how they messed this up, but that's something you gotta look out for when you build this set. Still, if you're a Ninjago fan, this one is definitely a must buy. Jay's transforming car is a really good set. It's got a little bit of a combination of Cole's Tread Assault, the Katana 4x4, and the Anaconda Dry Crusher, with the big feature being that it can transform by flipping the front half of the vehicle so you can have it in two modes. One side is a dragon head, and it makes the front of the vehicle look more distinct than the rest of the set, and I personally call this one attack mode because not only does it give this car a lower, more aggressive forward angle, but it also engages those saws on the side, so when you drive the car around, they spin. Now, the other half, I just call this one the normal mode because it pretty much just makes the vehicle look like a general 4x4 ATV type vehicle, and funnily enough, I actually do like this more standard look better, even though this is not what is advertised on the box, and I think that actually does really speak volumes to them just nailing the design by having both of these versions look good. And now, while the transformation is the main feature, there actually are quite a few other features. There's clips for the swords, there's spots on the back that allow you to attach this crate with the weapons inside, and there's also the spring-loaded shooter, and obviously those saws I mentioned before, but you also do get this little side build, and what's cool about this is that you can actually pull off the spring-loaded shooter from the car, and you can add it to this to expand it some more, while also adding to the overall transformation feature of the car. And to top this set off, you have 5 excellent minifigures. You've got the dragon form of Kai, so a ton of people are going to want this set just to get their hands on this figure, but there's also the cheapest way to get the loyalist leader, and this is the only set to get this specific version of Jay. And now that I've hyped this set up, let's talk about what I don't like. I personally found that fitting Nia was actually very difficult. I've had to slightly move her hair to the side to actually make sure that she could fit into the vehicle, so that was a little bit strange and not really something I've seen with a set like this before. And then of course the big thing is the price. This is a great set, but it is just too much money. I think even $50 would be pushing it for this one, but at least it would feel a little more reasonable. So this is one to wait for a sale on, and it's definitely one I would expect to go on a sale. Obviously, a lot of people have wanted to get Cole's Golem form from Dragon's Rising, and this mech is finally that version of Cole. Now, this set is actually very similar to the elemental mechs that we have received over the last 2 years, and you can kind of pretty easily see that just by looking at it, but there are some key differences, with the most obvious ones being that this set is just a little bit more armored, and the gimmick, if you want to call it a gimmick, is that this one is focused on mixing weapons instead of mixing and matching the arms and legs. There are 3 different weapons this mech can use: a staff, a sword, and a spring-loaded shooter, and you can have all 3 of them attached at once if you want, or you could have some in the back. There's also 5 different points that you can actually place these weapons, so there's a whole lot of different options that you can do here, and there's even clips on the legs to pull Cole's hammer, which I obviously just love to see. And of course, while in this show, this mech is literally just Cole. In the set, Cole actually pilots this mech, but the set actually does do a pretty decent job of covering Cole up if you have the head all the way down and the chest pulled all the way in. So sure, you can't see his hairpiece up close, but from a distance, it blends in very well and it's not that noticeable. And obviously, you also do get the dragon form of Zane, who is an excellent minifigure. But for $35, it is definitely a little bit overpriced, especially compared to the $20 elemental Earth mech that they are quite literally still selling at the time of this video. This is now the 3rd year in a row that LEGO has released a buildable Rayu, and this one is the biggest and also the best version. The legs on this set are a little bit jank, but at the end of the day, Rayu really doesn't have any issue standing up, so even though the legs are not how I personally would have designed them, they're not really bad. The body of Rayu really surprised me because it's a lot bigger than I expected, and I think it might actually be larger than Rontu entirely, but unfortunately Rontu is 1,000 miles away from where I am right now, so I can't do a comparison of them. As far as features go, you have this saw that can spin, and that's really it. There's not a whole lot of playability besides just moving the dragon and swooshing it around, but it is a dragon, so that's kind of really all you need. And the set also does have this giant sword which you can put in Ryu's mouth, or you can have it attached to the side of his body, but the sword can also be swapped with the swords from Cole's mission mech, so if you get both of those sets, you can kind of mix and match the swords from that, which is actually advertised in the instructions, but weirdly enough, it's not advertised anywhere else. And of course, you also do have the 4 minifigures of this set. Obviously, Dragon Form Nia is the standout figure of the set, and it is also exclusive to the set, but I do also want to shout out the Mutation monster. This and the spinner are the only ways to get this Mutation monster, and this version actually has this small build on its back that is not included in that spinner set. But I do have one minor gripe with this set, and that is with the head, and most specifically the jaw. Because of the way the Rayu headpiece is molded with this ridge, it sort of looks like this set actually has a double jaw, which it is definitely a little bit weird, and it's something that I think will bother a lot of people. That being said, I don't really think it's that noticeable unless you're really looking at it up close, so it doesn't really bother me that much, but there are definitely a lot of people that this could be a deal breaker for, so I do want to mention it. Also, at $45, this is one of the better priced sets of the wave, and I only have a few nitpicks with it, so this is one I definitely think you should pick up if you get the chance. The spinners are a rerun of last year's spinner sets, which I do not think is a bad thing at all because I like those spinners from last year and I thought they were very strong gimmick sets. This time though, they have switched it up a little bit and now these spinners are designed for the villains. The bases of each spinner are based on the monster's main color, but the design is still the same. And of course they also function the same. You push the launcher sticking out of the back to release the spinners, and the more aggressively you push, the further the spinner will spin. Basically, if you just want figures or something just really fun to battle with, this is what you should buy. Now here's a set that I wasn't really hyped for at all. When I first saw this set, it felt to me like this set had no identity and it was really more so just 3 sets mashed together into one, and now that I built it, that is exactly what this set is. But to be fair, that is exactly what this set wants to be. When you build it, you get 3 separate instructions for each of the 3 builds, so you can pick whichever one you want to do first, or you can be like me and just build them in order. The first one is the Kai bike, which I was actually pleasantly surprised by. The design here, it's a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, with some nice shaping in the center, and when I saw the spoiler was angled in the initial pictures, I thought this might be a case where the spoiler actually bumps into the tire when you put it flat, but that is not the case. There's plenty of room here, and this bike is actually more stable than I thought it'd be as well. These big bike builds, they tend to fall over a lot whenever they don't use perfectly flat tires, and yeah, this one, it definitely does take some balancing, but it is mostly stable. The Zane helicopter, on the other hand, this one is very disappointing. There are some cool aspects of it, like I like the dragon head, I think the engine pod detailing is cool, and the main saving grace is obviously these giant transparent blue blades, which not only look awesome, but they have a rotating function, which is super cool, but I just don't really love how open the design is here, and I really think this one should have had a spot to store Zane's weapon. And then of course, we have the quote-unquote main build, which is the treehouse, which again pleasantly surprised me because it is much bigger than I thought it'd be, and it actually does have a lot of good detailing, like this water section under the bridge and this lamp up front. But the real key with this set is that even though this set is really just like a bunch of random stuff thrown together, this is without a doubt the single best playset of this wave. The treehouse specifically is filled with functions everywhere. The rotating bridge is my personal favorite, but there's also 2 logs to drop down, there's a stud shooter, this rope to swing minifigures, a bunch of tools on the bottom floor of the treehouse, and there's just a lot of space for minifigures in general. And then, that combined with these 2 other vehicles, this is just a really awesome set to get out of the box and just have a bunch of stuff to have fun with. And the minifigures here are fun too. The most important ones are easily Euphrasia and the Dragon J, who are both exclusive, but you also get this Acid Monster, Oil Loyalist, and obviously Kai and Zane, so there are a lot of good minifigures here. But look, would I have preferred if LEGO just went all out and made an awesome treehouse? 100%. I think a full-blown treehouse set would have been great, but with this set in hand, I do really understand what they were going for, and I do think they accomplished that very well. But I will say, one of these vehicles should have been a villain vehicle. We did not need 3 dedicated ninja builds in this set, and I think a villain vehicle would have made this playset aspect here even better. And yes, $80 is too much for this set. You should definitely wait for 20% off. This mech may be a bit smaller than the other one, but spoiler alert, I love this set. Obviously, this is not the first time they have done this type of set, but I think this is the best one that they have done yet. I think the dragon aesthetic works so well here. I love the wings, I love the way they designed the claw-like feet, the spikes on the arms are great, and the Kai minifigure with the new dragon hood mold just looks really good and ties this whole thing together. And obviously this set being small does give it the advantage of not being super heavy, so it is ultra posable. Plus, you get Sora and the Earth Monster here as well, and all of that is only for $10. So unlike some of the other sets, this one is not only just really fun, but also super affordable. You know, I think this set brings a lot to the table that I like, but the execution just isn't necessarily the best. First off, the minifigures in this set are pretty goated. You get 8 of them, all of which are solid figures. The standouts, obviously, of course, being the 2 exclusive dragon versions of Lloyd and Cole. And to be completely honest, I think Cole is probably my favorite out of all of these Dragon Ninja, and potentially my favorite minifigure from this entire wave, mainly because they actually gave him an interesting weapon instead of just a basic sword. The Dragon of Life also has 2 small side builds. One of them is this giant Earth Monster mech, which is super posable and looks really cool, and I really love how they integrated the weapons from the Earth Monster minifigure onto the mech as pauldrons. And as a little bonus, this set also pairs really well with that Kai mech from earlier in the wave as something to just kind of battle up against it. And you also have this other small jungle contraption side build, which it's able to spin around, but the big thing here is actually when you lower these new leaf pieces, you can reveal that it has the Sword of Fire just kind of randomly here. Now, don't get your hopes too high up, because it has been confirmed that there is no story significance for the Sword of Fire being here, but it is still pretty cool to just see it return in a set. Then you have the Dragon of Life, and there is a ton of stuff that I like about this build. This set is big and generally just looks really good. It's very obvious that the goal of this dragon was to create a nature-like aesthetic, and I think they absolutely nailed that. The blending of all of the colors looks great. There's a lot of really well done shaping, like the dragon's horns and also these sections on the legs that just look like branches, and then there's also the use of this new mold and the printing of the wings that give off a great leaf aesthetic. Everything about the design work for the overall aesthetics and looks of this set I think came out super well. Even the back legs, which I initially thought looked a little bit out of place with the rest of the dragon, it just looks so much better in person. And there's also some other things about this set that are great as well. One thing I didn't realize is that the tail goes back to using the old swivel function, which is awesome to see return, but there is no gear here, so it's not quite as easy to use as some of the older dragons, which I feel like is a little bit of a missed opportunity, but it also is a double-edged sword because on one hand, you have a little bit more of a cohesive design here because you don't have a gear sticking out, but then on the other hand, it is just a little bit slightly more annoying to use, so it's a trade-off, but I think it is perfectly fine. And then also the wings have the ability to be spread out by pushing down on this lever, but I do personally prefer to have them closer together to hide the Technic beams. But of course, this set, it is not perfect. The wings in general are just pretty jank. I expected them to be a little bit difficult to position just based off the initial reveal, but it really is worse than I thought it would be, and it's very hard to just get a nice pose out of this where you can actually see the wings. Additionally, I've noticed that the wings frequently tend to get stuck to the legs whenever you use the function, which is super frustrating, but outside of the wings, there also are some nitpicky things that I don't love about this set. For one, I don't love that the neck sticks up so high. Unfortunately, this does seem to just be a defining characteristic of the Archdragons, but not only is this not my preference for a dragon, but because of the way this is designed, if you want to try to move this neck down as far as possible, it just reveals this giant gap, which is just very awkward. But at the end of the day, this is not a bad dragon. It is at a little bit of a disadvantage because I personally just don't like the general shaping of Archdragons, but this one is just much better than the Archdragon of Focus, and the dragon itself is really quite unique with its forest color scheme, but at $110 I would have really liked to see this be a perfect set, but it doesn't really seem like LEGO's in the business of doing that these days. Still, relative to some of the other sets from this wave, this is definitely one of the best ones, and you're still getting a very good dragon and some insanely great minifigures. This Blacksmith shop is the biggest set of this wave by piece count, although it is not actually the most expensive one, coming in at only $100 compared to $110 for the Dragon of Life, and it is also the second 15th anniversary set. And let me tell you, this set right here,
it was perfect.
Like the character display stand, you are greeted at the beginning of the instructions with some background information on this set and some of the references included in this set, and yes, there are a lot of them, but before we get into those, let's talk about the outside of this set, which obviously, it is great. I love the rock and the grass detailing that they've done all around the base of the set. It is super well done, and I think it just does a lot to really elevate this set as a more premium build compared to just using a normal base plate. Also, the front of this does a really good job just capturing the overall shaping and details of the Blacksmith shop in the show, but I do think the interior is actually where this set really shines. The left side here is basically a one-for-one recreation of the Blacksmith shop with some extra details sprinkled in, like the T and this picture of Ray and Maya from Day of the Departed. The other half is the forge side, and this once again is phenomenal. The build for the floor on this half looks so good, it's kind of shame that it isn't more visible. And you also have an anvil and cooling area for Kai included as well, but like I said, this set is not only a perfect recreation of the Blacksmith shop, but it is packed with references. On the top, you have these two sections which you can pull out, which has Kai's ZX hood and Nia's Samurai X helmet, but they also have stickers of the character cards which came in their respective spinner sets. And speaking of spinners, the weapons that are spread throughout the Blacksmith shop are the same exact weapons that came in the original pilot season Kai and Nia spinners, which is a super cool and subtle reference. There also is the picture of Ray and Maya that I mentioned before, there's the no walking sign from season 1, and then of course you can knock down the sign to reveal the map to the 4 golden weapons of Spinjitzu. And yes, the minifigures here are great as well, and there are also a ton of exclusives. Sensei Wu and Nia are the only ones which are not exclusive to this set, but this is the cheapest way to get that version of Nia, who is based off her pilot season design, hairpiece included, although I do wish she would have used the half-mask face print that she had in the original version. Ray and Maya are both included here as well, and I love the fire and water builds they have to represent their powers. The Blacksmith Kai is now an updated and more accurate version. And inside of the shop, there actually is some armor, so you can get Kai ready to battle some skeletons. And yes, you also do get that original Elemental Master of Earth, who is awesome. And the thing which actually surprised me the most about this one is that it is actually silver. The criticism that I've seen some people have for this set is that the price here is a little bit high, but having this set in hands and having built it and handled this thing, I think $100 is completely justified. There's just so much that goes into this set that you don't even realize until you actually build it, and this is another one that I think is just an absolute must-have for Ninjago fans.